So the next simple low-cost healing tip is about sleep. And sleep is so important. And it's something that I'm personally interested in because I came up in the world, and Maria, I'm sure you did too, because when you were working in finance, people don't sleep.
No.
And sleep is one of those things where it's like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, right? Where there's a cultural aspect to it. Where I remember when I was working as a consultant in New York, it was like almost a badge of honor to work late and to get up early and get into the office. It was kind of that type A thing where sleep is for the weak.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, like,
Oh, yeah.
so, and I know you experienced that too, Maria, and this has to shift because sleep is probably one of the most important things you can do. And I think, Maria, you were probably one of the first people to like actively teach me this, because you were somebody who was really good about it, always protecting your sleep.
Because I wasn't before.
Right. Let's just put it this way. You learned the lesson before I did.
The hard way. Yes.
So why is sleep so important though? Because it matters a whole lot. Sleep is not just for sleeping and resting and, you know, it sounds all nice, and it's for when your body is repairing and detoxifying. So if your body needs to heal and needs to repair, it needs to sleep. If you are not sleeping, you are not healing, period. And what's so cool about sleep, and this has been research that's come out in the last year or two, actually 2015, I think was when the first studies were coming out where they discovered the lymphatic system in the brain, which actually is part of the detoxification process that happens at night when you're sleeping. So if your child experienced brain injury or has an excessive toxic burden, sleep is actually key to allow the brain to detoxify, to drain, and to heal. And this applies to any kind of mood disorder, neuropsychiatric condition, you know, PANS, autism, anywhere where there's inflammation in the brain. Depression, there's inflammation in the brain, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, I mean, you name it, there's inflammation in the brain in all of these conditions. So when there's inflammation in the brain, you want the brain to have the ability to eliminate its waste products, which it does through the lymphatic system, which it does at night when you're sleeping. So when you're not sleeping, you're actually forcing your body to retain and hold on to toxins it wants to get rid of. So I've just been so amazed at how much research has come out about the importance of sleep, and it's really convinced me of its importance. So having said all that, it's great that sleep is important, and I'm supposed to be doing simple, low-cost healing tips. But when your child won't sleep, it's like, what do you do? How do you get your child to sleep? And there's so many of our kids that are, you know, tired but wired and can't fall asleep. So one of the things, you know, before I get into sort of some ideas for how to get your child to sleep, is I will mention that, Maria, you cover this topic really, really well in the health coach training program, the online program that Epidemic Answers has. It's the second lecture. And Maria, you talk about how much sleep kids should get at different ages, and, you know, why it's important for kids to get to sleep. It's such a critical part of your lecture. So if anybody wants to learn more about that, it's in, you know, there's a lot more to be learned in your lecture there that you gave, Maria. So what I would say about sleep is that you need to start with sleep hygiene. So I remember rolling my eyes at my pediatrician once when he told me about sleep hygiene, like, make sure you, like, you know, make sure they go to bed at the same time and blah, 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 thinking like, really, does that work? You know, I always thought that sleep had to be like a fancy supplement you took, or, you know, there was some kind of really complicated thing that you would need to get your children to sleep. But really, these sleep hygiene habits work. So one of them is to get up, go to sleep, and wake up at the same time each day, and have a bedtime routine. You know, bedtime routine just means every day I brush my teeth, I floss my teeth, I get my pajamas on, I read a story, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what your routine is, but the fact that it's a routine is actually contributing to sleep because it's readying your body. Exercising earlier in the day rather than later in the day, which I know can be hard for a lot of older kids who play sports later in the evening. Not eating a large meal right before bed contributes to this whole sleep hygiene. Of all the things that you can do towards sleep hygiene and readiness for sleep, I think this next bullet point is the most important. Electronics, including televisions, iPads, iPhones, any kind of electronic devices, even the like Kindles and things like that. Anything that emits blue light is going to impair your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep, because blue light, you know, on the spectrum, is responsible for suppressing melatonin, which is good because when you go outside during the day, you are exposed to the full spectrum of light, including blue light, which tells your body to suppress the production of melatonin, which again is that important hormone that tells your body to sleep and helps your body sleep. So when you're outside during the day, you want your melatonin suppressed. When you're inside getting ready for bed, you want your melatonin to kick in. It's not gonna kick in if you're looking at screens before bed. So the number one thing you can do, I think, to help support sleep is to not allow your children to use any kind of devices toward the evening hours, at least 2 hours before bedtime. If they are going to use them, there are things that you can do to block some of the blue light, which I'll talk about in a minute. Making the bedroom dark, quiet, and cool. Those are all really good tips. No caffeine, sugar, other stimulants. Another really important part of sleep hygiene, in addition to going to sleep at the same time and waking up at the same time, is when you do wake up, if you get outside and have your eyes, your naked eyes, no sunglasses, look up into the sky, not directly at the sun, but they get natural sunlight into their eyes. This actually helps you sync your internal clock. It helps set your circadian rhythms. So if you're never going outside, you're never seeing that natural sunlight, you're not going to have the help that you need to help sync that internal clock. One other thing I'll mention is that, and this is often overlooked, I think this is actually a big one, is that EMF can actually impair your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep as well. Mm-hmm. EMF being electromagnetic radiation that comes from anything from a device like an iPad or a cell phone, but it can also come from things like refrigerators and televisions and alarm clocks. So, and actually, I have an EMF meter that I go around my house and check for levels because I'm that kind of a nerd. And
y'all are, don't worry.
You have one too, Maria, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So when you check for EMF exposures near the bedroom, one of the worst ones is the alarm clock, believe it or not. And sometimes the alarm clocks even have these bright displays that emit blue light. So you have to be careful of that. But also fans are another big exposure of EMF. So if your child sleeps with like white noise fan next to them and has an alarm clock right next to their head, move those things away from their body, away from their bed. Another one that's very common, actually two that are really common that people often overlook. One is if their bedroom is backed up against a refrigerator, because refrigerator is actually a huge source of EMF. So if their bedroom's on the opposite side of the kitchen and their bed happens to be near the refrigerator, that's an exposure at night. And then the last one I'll mention is the Wi-Fi router. And I know of an example where somebody was having a major flare of chronic Lyme symptoms. And it happened, and they stopped sleeping. And it happened as soon as they put a new Wi-Fi router in their house that went from 2.4 gigahertz to 5 gigahertz. So it ramped up the power of it. So those EMF exposures are real, and they do impair your sleep. Again, another free thing. This is the way we keep it at low cost.